It is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool being beaten by 2-1 by Manchester City, and other shit happened. More on that to come. I've got Ian Ryan, Beth Lindop and Rob Gutmann. Liverpool are also going away to Sunderland. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday night as well. And the general ramifications, the state of the table, the ever-present looming threat. No, the league table, Roberto. The ever-present looming threat of Brentford underpinning Liverpool's season. What are we going to do about the bees? Has anybody got a plan for the bees? How do you keep the bees at bay? But before then, we are going to say thank you very much to Pelaton for partnering with the Anfield Wrap for a second year. Pelaton are also the official cardio and strength partner of Liverpool Football Club. They launched a new product line, which is the Cross Training Series. It's powered by Pelaton IQ, which helps you train smarter and grow stronger, generating self-paced custom workouts, tracking reps, and live form feedback. We've also got our own team on the Pelaton app, so if you search for the Anfield Wrap, you'll find that there. And we've got a group on Telegram as well. Tips and all sorts of stuff on that, live rides together. John sorts all that out, so get hold of John Gibbons on that if you've got any questions, through any means you like. Knock around, to be honest with you. Yeah, knock around to his and go from there. We are going to talk about Liverpool versus Manchester City. I wrote a long agenda and somehow it got garbled by the internet, so I'm just going to try and do it off the top of my head.
We should get AI to do you one again. What would Neil say? Then it would be amazing.
I would rather throw myself in the Mersey, which is also the general response that Liverpool Football Club give me on a regular basis at the minute, Rob. It becomes painful, ultimately. It's quite a fragmented game. First 20 minutes, City are much the better side. I think that's reasonable to say. Then it's a pretty quiet affair until half-time. Then Liverpool come out second half and are genuinely very good. And then ultimately, City get themselves that goal back. The game's unbridled. Liverpool are loose. It's worth saying in a couple of different ways over that period. It's exceptionally difficult at the moment because it just feels like there's different catalogues of errors after different matches. It feels like there's a lot of senior players who either in moments or in the round aren't performing. It feels as though the manager is rightly under a great deal of pressure. The league table is no barrel of laughs. And my general position currently is I feel as though every game Liverpool go into, they've got a 4 out of 10 chance of winning it, which in the long run is not really acceptable and it's no way to live.
It's a very Groundhog Day season, but with nuances. You can judge all of Liverpool games as felt to me this season. That's probably exaggerating, but a huge swathe of them from the point of view of let's just look at this game in isolation. Let's analyse it with objectivity in a sanguine way and see what happened to that football match. Look at it the way the analysts would. And in a lot of these football matches, including yesterday's, Liverpool at about whatever it is it 85 minutes or 82 minutes, and whenever they're still 1-0 up, look like a team who are deserving to win a really big football match. Then one mad thing goes against them. Bernardo Silva's onside and scores, and then another mad thing. The best goalkeeper in the world on his day does a mad thing, and suddenly the course of our history has changed again. So there's yet again, Liverpool did lots to encourage the neutral and the fan, were a bit unlucky overall not to win a really big football match. There's the context as to why Liverpool can't win many football matches at the moment, to do with injuries and the imbalances within the squad, which has kind of knock-on effect, lack of fitness within the squad. But there is the other context, which is this is now a Liverpool team that's won. Is it something like only 6 in 25 league games? And that's the context that you come out of the game looming largest in front of you, going, this is just, I think, 24 points from the last 20 games? We're a relegation team. I remember doing shows, I don't know, it's not Friday nights or whatever, but talking about Wolverhampton Wanderers, still on 8 points or whatever, going, the interesting thing about Wolves is they're only narrowly getting beaten. They're playing quite well. Things are going to get better. They're a shit relegation team. And at the moment, this is empirically a shit relegation team, Liverpool. That's the bottom line, despite having some nice performances. Well, let's put it this way. The statistics, the raw statistics show that this to be the case. And just right now, I'm at the end of my personal tether. I know we're all going to discuss where we are on tetherometers going forward, but I almost don't want to talk, I know we've got to, about the bits and pieces of the game and what we enjoyed and what we're a bit worried about, where the tweaks can be made, because the round is just a horrible place because we aren't getting in the Champions League right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Soz, man.
I know. I thought you were going to ask me something. I think, yeah, it was a game where we were chatting off air before. Going into it, weirdly, I thought we might win. I just thought it might be one of those games. I know it sounds strange because you should go into matches at Anfield expecting to win. But when you're playing a team like City, and let's be clear, they've not been particularly great since the turn of the year. I think they'd only won 1-6 in the league. So I thought it was a game.
I've also loved the draw. They've also loved the draw.
Yeah, they've had a lot of draws, yeah. And they've done okay in the League Cup, obviously taking care of Newcastle in the semi-final and got to the final. But I thought it might be a game where if he picks the right team, the styles might just suit and we might just come out on top. I always felt it would be a close game. But there's no doubt, in terms of that first 45, City are the dominant force. Without testing Alisson loads and loads, I think they have 3 shots on target. But Liverpool have none. None at Anfield till about the 51st, 52nd minute, which is criminal, really, for a Liverpool team at home. I don't care who you play, and that just can't be a thing. So they go into the game, as Rob said, and play well for about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. But if you're not going to start well, and we know this Liverpool team very rarely seem to finish games well, and not only do they not finish games well, they concede a lot of late goals. I think it's the highest on record with Watford and Southampton in the Premier League era for conceding 4, I think it is now, 90-plus minute goals, which is a bit of a disgrace if we're all honest. So if you're going to do that, you can't be starting football matches at half time. We've said this a lot. You and I have said this a lot because we've done a lot of these shows. So listen, they get away with that a little bit because they survived the first 45. I was a little bit surprised that maybe, I say surprised, I always felt he'd probably go with Gakpo because he loves him. But I just felt because of the makeup of City's team and what we've seen them do to us at the Etihad earlier in the season with the overload in the middle of the park, I thought it might have just occurred to him that he might want an extra midfielder in there. So I thought he might have gone with Jones just to bolster that middle of the park a little bit and had Wirtz coming off the left, a little bit like he did against Real Madrid. So I thought that might be a thing. And that plays out, I think, in the first half an hour, certainly, when City are massively on top. I thought Gravenberch and McAllister just getting swallowed up, especially McAllister. It was such a tough watch. And he wasn't the only one. But I feel like you've said that a lot about him, and he just doesn't feel equipped at the minute to be in there as a bit of a 2. I don't think he can cover the gaps. I don't think he's passing particularly well. I think he's struggling with direct runners. So that all played into City could easily kind of, take this away from us a little bit. But they hang in there, and then you have the second half that they have. But as we've seen with this Liverpool team, time and again this season, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I think just jumping off what Ian said about the sort of throwing the first half away, essentially, I think that's been my biggest frustration with Liverpool is, we're at a point now where we know that once it gets to sort of 70, 75 minutes, this isn't a squad that is equipped to really sort of go for the, really be gung-ho and really finish games strongly because they just haven't got the squad to do it. Wirtz and Ekitike yesterday, I think by the time it got to sort of 75 minutes or so, they'd started to look tired. And you look at the difference between the two benches. I think you wrote it in your piece afterwards. They have Phil Foden, who doesn't even get on the pitch.
Nico Gonzalez, Phil Foden, and there was one other.
Raiders.
Johnny Ryan, who will don't get on.
And they bring on Cherky and Diaz. I've seen a lot this morning criticising Slot's management of his squad or saying he doesn't trust his squad and whatever. And listen, I'm sure we'll get into the manager and what we think about him and whatever. But I think one thing I would say for him is that genuinely when you looked at that Liverpool bench before kick-off and in comparison to the City bench, I just think there's such a glaring difference between the two. And I think the only one who he should have brought on earlier, really, who could have had any impact was Jones. Would have liked to have seen him a bit earlier than he came on. So that's an issue. But if you've not got that squad to be able to go on really strong until the 90th minute, then you've got to start games quick. You can't give it to 60 minutes and have it, the game still hanging in the balance at 70, 80 minutes when you're tired. And I asked Slot after the game yesterday, that Ian mentions it about the conceding late goals. It's 8 points dropped after the 90th minute this season, which is the most in the league. And Slot said, one thing that we need to get better at, the next step for us is that there are too many games that are still sort of hanging in the balance late on. We need to make that margin for error bigger. And they just haven't done that all season. And the only way you're going to do that is if you do start games a little bit, more strongly. I think, You know, when Liverpool beat Everton earlier on in the season, Everton have a really good second half at Anfield. They obviously make it 2-1, but they were 2-0 up. Liverpool, they had a little bit of a buffer.
Well, that's a good example of what you're describing. Liverpool actually threw the kitchen sink in Everton at first 45.
Yeah, exactly.
Got in 2-0. We're a little tired. They actually played quite well. Liverpool at 2-1.
Yeah.
They keep Everton at arm's length at that point, and also Everton overexert from 45 to 65 to get
Because
back to 2-1 because they have to, and then they sort of don't really have a gear either. Now Everton are, current rate to be fair, but I mean Everton are that sort of side. They're not going to have Man City's bench.
Yeah. Is
fair to say, but yes, that is an example of what you're describing, which is you get to the half-time point and Liverpool have at least put the goals on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and Atletico Madrid was obviously around a similar time. They'd go 2-0 up in that game as well, and they let Atletico back in, but because they've got that advantage, it's not quite as catastrophic. Whereas if you're going into games at 60 minutes and it's 0-0, and within the next 10 minutes you're going to be knackered, then you've got absolutely no chance of winning football matches on a consistent basis. So yeah, I don't buy this idea that Slot sends them out to say, right, start slowly, and I also think as footballers, the level of these footballers, there's got to be an element, especially for a game like that, where you've got to come out and City had played a few days earlier in the League Cup, albeit there was a lot of changes made in that game, but yeah, they're not starting games quickly enough and they're not finishing games well enough, and that's compounded all of their issues at the minute.
Within that then is the reality of where it leaves the battle, the table, and it is a battle at this point. This is how trying to come in the top 4, top 5. We've not had a lot of it, even 23-24 at this point in the season where Liverpool fundamentally come third. They're part of a title race. They're not part of a battle for fourth. There's 2021, which is difficult for us to all think about because we weren't going to matches, and it almost feels like a different universe because of that. And there is the reality of 22-23 when Liverpool don't do it. And then there's going back to 16-17 when I think a pretty thin Liverpool squad limps over the line to get Champions League. And that's it really. All other seasons, it's felt like Liverpool have had a lot of control over whether or not they're going to do that. It is a battle. And at the minute, Liverpool just don't look battle hardened. And that's my biggest concern, to the point of starting well, to the point of see it out, to the point of capitalise on your advantages. This Liverpool, to the point of maybe it's just going to finish 1-1 today, but you know what, lads, that's better than ending up in an absolute shit show that leads to the right back / midfielder getting sent off. Do you know what I mean? Like every Liverpool mistake at the minute feels like it compounds in some sort of way, shape or form. And that's my worry with reference to them coming into the Champions League places. To me, if I say they don't look hungry for it, it feels as though I'm questioning professionalism or something. I'm not really. But I genuinely am not. They don't, to me, look equipped just to deal with the muck and bullets of all of this.
No, I totally agree. I think some of that's almost summed up a little bit in the City kind of winning goal in the penalty, because I think, understandably, you look at the goalkeeper and you're like, lad, what are you doing? What are you doing there? I mean, for someone of such experience, it's a massive mistake. But like with most goals, you can take it back a little bit further and look at what happens before that. And there's a number of things where, again, Liverpool could be better. That muck and bullets point, where they're all kind of doing the jobs to a level where you feel comfortable. It's just not happening. Like Curtis Jones, I mentioned before that I thought he could have started this one to help bolster Liverpool's midfield. He's just come on and he doesn't track the run of Mateus Nunes.
I've just had this at length from Sean Rodgers. McAllister says, I'll take him.
Well,
and then
I was going to say whether it's him or not, but initially, and that would make a little sense to me, because when that move starts, Kirkes and McAllister have both got a man. Curtis engages Mateus Nunes, he engages him. So it would feel easier for Jones to follow that run, personally. But one of them's got to go. But even if none of them go, Van Dijk can see it. He can see it. He's looking directly at that space. It doesn't go over. He only has to go over 5 yards and he'll clear that up. No fucking problem. So he doesn't do that, and then it leads to what Alisson does. So there's like 4 of them there, and you can look at 4 of them and go, what are you doing? And that plays into your point. So when you've got that many individual mistakes happening across multiple games, and that's just one moment in a match where there's 3 or 4 of them at fault, that's happening far too often. So when we talk about the bigger picture stuff, I was saying before, I quite fancied the City game at home. I just thought the kick-off time, the fans would be right at it. They were for a little bit, but I thought the players would come out with a bit more of a kind of attitude where they were going to take it to City in that first 45. Like you said, Beth, I thought it might be more of that. The games I was looking at worrying were Sunderland, Forest. Games where you think, well, these are going to sit in and make it really difficult, and then we'll make a mistake and they'll pick us off in that manner. And I still think that'll happen probably, to be fair. And that's the worry. But you look at the table now, and it's 4 points to Chelsea. It's 5 to United. These are two teams who've got rookie managers in who were both behind Liverpool when those managers took those jobs. So Liverpool should have been favourites for 4th, and they find themselves now 6th. And by the time they kick off against Sunderland, they could be 7 points behind Chelsea, who play Leeds at home, and 8 points behind United, who, to be fair, go to West Ham, who are playing a little bit better. But you'd probably still fancy United to go there and get something.
We've got the hardest game of the week.
We've got the hardest game of the
Including
week.
Villa,
So,
by the way. Throw Villa, and Villa have got Brighton at home.
So if that goes against them, and I think you've seen a lot of this season where Liverpool players, and maybe the manager as well, they're feeling sorry for themselves massively. And if they kick it off against Sunderland, 7 and 8 points behind those two teams we've just mentioned, then you can almost see them looking at themselves and struggling a little bit and thinking, well, fucking hell, we're not going to catch them now, aren't we? Because there's been a big sense of that for me throughout the course of the season. And yeah, I'm not sure I see it change anytime soon, to be honest.
No, I don't see it change. We're just in a loop now at the moment, aren't we? I've sensed change. 2 months ago, after I can't remember when there was a good result. Well, I think you can even go back to the Villa Real Madrid week. We sensed a sea change. It only took ironically the humiliation at Man City there to take us back to square one. There've been other mini reboot moments. I think when we won at West Ham, when we started to amass a few unbeaten games, and last week beating Karabag and Newcastle, not far off from beating Marseille away, and there's Inter Milan. So there's all these pockets of hope, but they're always immediately followed by problems. We're always getting unlucky. So, and I do think it is a massive crisis for this club to not be in the Champions League next season. It's a massive, massive crisis. And we're at the stage where I have little time for people who want to nitpick or even damn things that Arne Slot is doing or is as a human being and individual. I've got enormous respect for him. I think what he did last season was incredible. He may be doing everything right, but it not going for him this season. I don't know. I'm not going to say he gets his substitutions wrong, he gets his sides wrong, his tactics wrong. It should be played this type of football or that type of football. But I am interested in the outcomes, and the outcomes are just horrific at the moment, really horrific, and I don't think that's overstating them. And I do wonder if I was the decision maker at LFC or part of that panel, what I'd be saying now to make sure Liverpool got Champions League football, because you can't just say it. If you say it'll just get better cause we've been a bit unlucky, that's just winging a prayer stuff. That's like being 4-0 down at half time and going, or 3-0 down at half time, having had a terrible first half and going, should we make any changes? No, probably get better. Or and by the time you get to 55, 60 even, still the same. You go, no, probably just get better. Well, let's hope it does. All you're doing is hoping. Even if you replace the manager with someone who a year ago you would have said is not fit to lick his boots, you've got yourself a fighting chance. Well, one or two things are going to happen. You're either not going to qualify for the Champions League, which you're not going to at the moment anyway, or there's going to be a weird set of happenings like is happening at Man United and to a less extent Chelsea, and you're going to get the proverbial bounce, and you might just find yourself in the Champions League. I mean, it would be amazing if a guy we really wanted, possibly even before Arne Slot, wanted our job. We're talking about Xabi Alonso, but I'm not against, and I don't want to name names that give it so and so till end of season argument, because I think we just got to change something. I think the players are, psychologically, what's the word, fragile animals, just as the fans are. I'm not particularly interested in are they playing for this manager or not arguments, because at the end of the day, I think they really want to win, those lads. It's important for their careers. They really want to win. But do they have in their subconscious a belief that they can win the way things have gone? And it has to be being eroded, that confidence. If you bring somebody else in, whoever it might be, and obviously it'd be better if it'd be the best person, whoever it might be, you've got a fighting chance that things change, that belief comes back. Because one win in, the new guy will have engendered more belief than Arne Slot can engender by winning the next match. So, yes, I'd change manager now. You didn't ask me that question, but I'm saying it.
That's all right, you can say it. It's worth saying.
What day of the week I'd do it on, I don't know.
No, it's worth saying Liverpool themselves very much believe in continuity, in the
Yeah,
power
they
of
do.
continuity, and have done. It's worth even saying that, for instance, they don't sack Brendan Rodgers after the 6-1 defeat at Stoke because they can't get the man and they want to replace.
Yeah.
They maybe were slightly regretful of where it ended up post Hodgson into Dalglish, and then the second full season for Kenny, feeling as though that the hand was forced a little bit there. You can go further back, to the history of the club prior to its current ownership, where the removal of a manager has quite consistently been a big deal.
Doesn't happen lightly at our football club.
Does not happen lightly. So this is what I'm putting to you, really, a little bit of devil's advocate, really, in a way. But to do it, I feel as though they will only want to do it if they think the next thing they're bringing in is continuity. If you see what I mean. So you can say,
yeah, I know.
Get any schmuck, and you go from there.
I know.
But
I can.
But I think that their outlook and the cultural football club outlook is it has to feel like a pretty holistic, positive step.
I don't disagree. Look,
Well, you do disagree a bit because you
I
just said
do-
that you
no,
don't
I
get
do-
any.
yeah, but
Well, that's
hang on.
fine, and there'll be lots of people listening to this who think that. So I don't want you to say I don't. By all means, make the argument for you know what.
Listen to me then.
This is how important the Champions League is.
It's all a balance of what you want. There's a part of me that says I can. There's still a 5, maybe 10% part of me that can talk myself into the fact that Arne Slot, he is still our title-winning manager, and we can still persist with him. There's a 30% chance of me that says give it some bum till the end of the season, but the majority of
Who's
me.
bum?
Do you want a discussion on who the bum is? There's part of me that was actually thinking, hey,
I thought you were going to say, do you want it?
I mean, I'm definitely a bum, so I'm going to have that.
James Milner, and he can pick himself off the bench. There you go. There's a wild one. I don't know, actually. I don't know. I mean, if I had to sit down and think, I want Xabi Alonso. I really want Xabi Alonso. And he's available. And I do believe they could talk him into it. I think there's no sign that they... If it came out that Xabi Alonso would not consider the Liverpool job to the end of the season, then I'd have to do a big sigh and go, well, do you get a stopgap? Well, I don't know. I'm going around in circles in my own mind because I'm not entirely... Because it's not clear what the exact right answer is because we can't know because we haven't got perfect information. I haven't got perfect information as to Xabi Alonso's intentions. I haven't got perfect information as to what Arne Slot actually has to deal with, whether he is at the peak of his powers but is being let down by fate, or behind the scenes he's going through a mental crisis, and that is bleeding into to his decision making and seeing the effect. I don't know all that stuff, so I can't know for sure exactly what I think should happen. I feel emotionally that a change will engender positive outcomes at the moment.
The other thing is, and I'm going to come back to you before I bring Ian and Beth back in. I want to do that because I think it's fair to say it's all right and perfectly understandable if there's some cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
So I'll make the point here that I have no issue myself, but I think it's perfectly fine with others as well. I think it's perfectly logical to not have any issue necessarily with Arne Slot being Liverpool manager for the start of next season if Liverpool are back in the Champions League. That if you were to press a button now and it was August at 1st and Arne Slot was Liverpool manager, Liverpool got 5th by hook or by crook. Let's not even talk about winning in Europe. That's a separate conversation.
If that's the trade-off, I'd take that.
And that's what I mean. Like I wouldn't be going, oh God, another season with Arne Slot.
No.
I'd obviously want the squad to be very different in the makeup. I hate this phrase, imbalanced, in that fucking light is a much better way to describe it. Imbalanced is a fucking euphemism, as far as I'm concerned. The squad is not imbalanced. It's not fit for fucking purpose. Let's be crystal clear about that. But a squad that's fit for purpose, to mount a challenge on the big two fronts. Arne Slot in charge, start of next season, but with the big two fronts, with the Champions League in there.
Yeah.
I am not going, oh my God, we're all fucked and it's going to be crap and we're going to be rubbish again. That's not what I think. I think it's a different universe at that point. And that's a bit of a funny thing to be, but that's where, the day they sack Hodgson or after Hodgson gets beat at Goodison, I am like, I want that man to be run out of town.
Yeah.
Whereas, literally run him out of town. Whereas that's not the case here. And I don't think that's the case for you either. And I don't think that's the case for a lot of Liverpool supporters, while simultaneously feeling like it didn't change.
It is the case for some Liverpool supporters.
It is the case for some Liverpool supporters, but not for a lot of others.
Yeah.
Whilst also saying, well, it didn't change in January because no one comes in. There's no new players. Nothing changes in January.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. Ergo, there's one thing that can change. And that's, I think, where a lot of people are. And that sounds like it's where you are, I'm just saying.
Yeah, craving change. I mean, it's fascinating that interview that not Mike Gordon, Billy Hogan, Hughes and Slot did last week for Sky, wasn't it?
No,
The club.
For the, it was for the
Standard
club.
Chartered it was.
Yeah, it was Vicky Hothersall from Sky doing the interview, wasn't it?
Gomersall.
Sorry.
It's okay. Steve Hothersall, Vicky
Give
Gomersall.
Hothersall,
It's very
Gomersall.
confusing.
It's early on a Monday-ish. It felt, if that almost felt like a response to fan noise, that piece, which I'm going to call it. I'm not saying it was a pure piece of propaganda because that'd be being harsh, but it definitely was set out to present a united front to show that everybody's with everybody, that Arne was, and in a sense that it was a reasonable thing to do, not leaving Arne Slot on his own again. But what they didn't do is Arne Slot's left on his own to face questions from the media. I'm not saying that it's particularly hostile media, but it's a media that asks questions. Now, no, Richard Hughes and Billy Hogan weren't facing questions there from a press pack. Hang on, Richard. What about the fact that it's been obvious since August that Liverpool were light in X, Y, or Z position? He didn't have to face those questions. He was able to sort of give an opinion in the round. And I'm not one of those who thinks Hughes needs to be held accountable. I don't actually think of it this way. Yes, I think everybody is able to be criticised, but I think I'm not going to be a hypocrite or a fraud. I celebrated, like many Liverpool fans, the work that Hughes did in the transfer market last year. But we are where we are, and the outcomes seem to have somehow been wrong for a variety of reasons. Some of them were obvious and some of them not so obvious. So where are we? Change. The change has got to come somewhere. What are we going to do? When you talk about change, throw the kids in. I feel a bit wild, although I think I might throw one or two of them in just to give us more legs once in a while. I think I've said this on a previous show. If you think your squad's too small, then make it bigger in the only way you can. And that might be using young players, and it might mean you give legs to other players. I don't know. There's an example of change you could make, and that's not saying throw 6 kids in. But I'm saying you might actually have to give Rio Ngama a start so that Ekitike can finish a football match. I don't know, something like that. You might have to give Trey Naoni a start so that Gravenberch is super fit and fresh for the next 3 games. Who knows? So there's an example of change, right? And change for change's sake. I don't think you can throw Richard Hughes out of a job or Billy Hogan out of a job or Mike Gordon out of a job and anything's going to happen, because they don't affect what goes on the field in the short term. But something's got to change in the short term. The manager iconically is the thing that changes football clubs' destinies. And because everyone believes it, it tends to be true. And this is why it's not a fluke that we are seeing Michael Carrick achieving beyond his abilities for Man United, and why the manager of Strasbourg seems to be turning around Chelsea's fortunes.
Change?
I think for me, I always felt he'd do it in the summer, and I still feel that's probably the most likely outcome. Now, I've said before on these shows, I think there was a genuine case you could have done it after PSV, just because there were so many defeats in a short space of time. I just think 9 and 12 is almost unforgivable territory really for a Liverpool manager to lose that many. But I understood why they cracked on, because I think the names that were getting mentioned at the time were people like Areola and Glasner, and I just thought,
Gary O'Neill.
fucking hell. I mean, I just had no interest.
Got a Strasbourg
really.
good job now, so he's out there running.
Yeah, next Chelsea manager. I had no interest in those names really, albeit
I agree.
I think, you know, the Bournemouth and Crystal Palace managers are both good managers. I accept that, but the step up for me would have been too big. And there was no Alonso around at the time. That's now changed. So that's where I can be talked into doing it before the end of the season. But as Rob said, we don't know what the information is behind the scenes. You know, does Alonso want to break? Does he look at the Liverpool team and think, well, I'd rather take over that in the summer, to be honest. Would have had a proper chance to recover from the Real Madrid experience, and we go from there, and I get to
Do
have
you
a
think he wants to manage a Europa League team though? Because that's what he's staring
Well,
at.
I mean, there's potentially that as well.
I think if he was going to manage any Europa League team, I think Liverpool would be the one that he would
but also,
consider. Yeah.
But also, you know, I don't know whether, by all accounts, Alonso was obviously very high on Liverpool's list initially, and made it really clear that he wanted a Real Madrid job. Now, does that change Liverpool's
And do another year at Leverkusen.
Yeah. Does that change Liverpool's thinking a little bit in terms of where he now sits on the pecking order? Maybe. Now, Liverpool may have a list that just has Alonso on it, but has a number of other candidates on it who aren't available until the summer. So that's where you think they might just want to try and get through with a title-winning manager, which he still is, rather than go for, to use your term, some bum. I've got very little interest in bringing in somebody who's not, like, proven. at a really, really high level. I just don't know whether that's... I mean, you can say roll the dice, and it's probably rolling the dice either way, to be honest, but I just don't see a scenario where, for all the reasons Neil mentioned, I can't really see them doing that, because the continuity feels very, very important. I think they'll want the next step to be quite a strategic one, and I just feel like bringing someone in doesn't feel very them to me. Now, I might be proven wrong, because there's also a thing where the dial can move so far the other way, where if they do lose to Sunderland, which is entirely possible, and then they go out to the FA Cup, I just think the noise around it might just be too much.
I think my biggest worry for the manager, more than anything in terms of tactics or squad depth or anything like that, is the noise, is the mood. And I, like Neil said, you know, that there's people who would deal on him being manager at the start of next season, providing that Liverpool had Champions League. I think, and listen, it's hard because social media is its own thing, and you know, you shouldn't judge everything off social media, but I just think that the mood music around Arne Slot now is at a point where I find it very hard to see him coming back from it in the eyes of some people. And you know, I've taken a fair bit of stick this season.
It feels like a matter of when, not if, doesn't it?
I've taken a fair bit of stick this season for defending him, and I'm sure people will be watching this and say, oh, it's because of access or this, that or the other, and that is absolutely not the case. Believe me, there's plenty of journalists who have spoken out against Arne Slot. A lot of the stuff I've written has highlighted that he's made a number of errors this season, but for me, one thing that I found quite upsetting actually is the lack of humanity when people have talked about him, particularly on social media.
Respect.
Lack of respect, yeah, and just the genuine vitriol and hatred that has been directed at someone who's done something incredible for this football club. I found that really, really quite sad, because I think, you know, Liverpool are a club and a fan base that purports to be better than anyone else. And listen, everyone thinks that, but Liverpool have that prestige, and I think in my eyes they've lost that a little bit this season. Some people, in the way that they've acted towards the manager.
You see, so I agree with you, but I want to say that Slot is still nowhere near the in-person vitriol that Houllier and Benitez both suffered.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is, and people do the social media thing and forget that, for instance, forums were social media back in the day. Steve Morgan went to an AGM to personally attack Gerard Houllier. Gerard Houllier got the most...
in the ground, there were banners.
There was banners in the ground. There was phone-ins. There was former players of Liverpool, for both of those managers I've just named, who aggressively attacked him over and over. So I understand when people do the thing where they say, oh, this doesn't feel very Liverpool and we've lost a bit of prestige. I'm sorry, but we're delusional.
Yeah.
Because there was fist fights about Rafa Benitez.
Yeah,
there was fist fights about Rafa Benitez and whether or not he should still be Liverpool manager.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's always important to sort of say that, yes, social media is a thing, and maybe because it is written down and it's in that public forum, but forums themselves back then were also a form of social media, and there was an unbelievable amount of vitriol to both of those managers back then.
Were bigger.
There was vitriol towards Hodgson, and just because we think he deserves it, there was huge vitriol towards Hodgson as well. There was vitriol towards Rodgers. I take your point, but I think that I genuinely do still feel as though Arne is actually being treated softer than these managers. But I think it's nice that we actually feel like, well, no, he deserves more, he deserves better, because I think he does as well.
I think as well, maybe it's partly it's an age thing. Obviously, I was
Markedly younger than the three of us.
Yeah, didn't want to say it quite that bluntly, but so it's the first time in my sort of adult life.
Red's here, Beth.
First time in my adult life that I have seen it, and I think
it gets shittier, is what Neil's saying.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's absolutely not about access or anything like that, but, you know, maybe there's an element of the fact that, you know, I've been sat in pretty much all of his press conferences for the past nearly 2 years or 18 months or whatever, and you see maybe the more human moments. You see his family walking through the mixed zone at the end of games, and you feel for them on a human level, and I also think, again, coming back to what happened in the summer, I think on a human level, I think there will be a point at some point in the future where the players come out and speak about this season and how hard it was.
Yeah.
Queen Kelleher did a great interview with Miguel Delaney at the weekend, where he sort of said he feels uncomfortable when he sees maybe some of the criticism that Liverpool have had this season. And I think we'll get a lot more of that in the long run. But that being said, that isn't me sitting here saying that blinkers on, the manager should stay forever, because I don't believe that. I think I agree with what the guys are saying, and I'm at a point now where I do sort of think the only way that Liverpool get Champions League football is if they do change something. And there was a chance to change in January, in the sense of, if you bring in Gay and Semenyo, for example, the mood around the club changes instantly.
Yeah.
And I understand why they didn't bring those specific players in, but if you bring 2 top players in, the fans can look at it and say, oh well, we can buy into this a bit more now.
And it would actually be different.
And
They have 2 more top players.
Yeah, and it would be different. So they've not done that. They've absolutely not done that. And so the only thing now that they can change is the manager. And I agree with Ian in the sense that, I don't think it will happen before the summer. Whether you think that's right or wrong, I don't think it will. I don't think you just give it to someone else till the end of the season, because I just don't think that is going to get...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And this football doesn't work this way, but if it became known that Alonso had agreed to join Liverpool in the summer and that Arne Slot was going to see out the season, just do his best, do you think that would make things calmer? I feel that it might do, in as much as people would... They wouldn't have to worry about their wanting to see him gone. And even the players, they could just focus on the job in hand.
Well, I think then you'd have to ask, would Arne Slot agree to that? Because in a way, is that a bit disrespectful to say to a title-winning manager, right, we're going to beat you in the summer, but we want you to get us back in the Champions League.
That's what I'm saying, practically.
So
I don't know if there's a spinning way. Arne Slot announces, this is going to be my last season at Liverpool. I want to go back. I want to go back to Holland. Blah blah blah, or whatever.
I'd be amazed if
yeah.
Of course, that's not going to happen. It's a thought experiment.
I just think I think Beth makes a good point. I mean, I take Neil's points around Julian Benitez. I mean, I was in the ground when that was going on, and it was nasty at times. It does feel like there's a little bit of that going on as well near me, certainly with the manager. I just think we can come on these shows as fans and have opinions, and that's what it's all about. And you kind of, for me, I always just come in and I'll just call it as I see it. I'll always do that. But I do think there's a line where you just need to be a little bit respectful.
I think criticism
you don't need
is totally fair.
You can be critical, and I think rightly so, because it's not been good enough. Let's be clear. I think we've all seen that. And it's not just a manager.
Well, would you make the change now, if Alonso was available?
I think if Alonso was available, yes. I think I would. But I've always felt that they'd do it in the summer. They'd make the change. They'd review in the summer. And listen, if they don't get Champions League football, there can be no arguments. I don't think the manager knows himself what the standards are. He's spoken about the standards so many times when it comes to this football club and where players need to be, and that's when he's been harsh on some people when they've maybe not hit those standards. And I think how he's articulated at times has been a little bit unfair on certain players, and I think that's a bit of a learn for him. If he was to have his time again, I think there's different ways he could handle things. But I also think a lot of it just comes down to whether even a football matches or not. Because I was quite willing to accept some of those things, some of those kind of little chinks in the armour. When you're winning games, that's all that really matters. But when you're not winning games and it looks like you're upsetting one or two, and you could be phrasing things in a different way, and I know he's doing it in a second language, I get all that. But I think that doesn't help the cause either. So yes, if you've got a top manager there with a proven track record, waiting to come in, saying, I'll take over right now, given where results have been, I think, of course, the majority would take that. But just to have someone come in and just try and get something out of them between now and the end of the season, I don't see Liverpool doing that. But my point before was, if it gets too bad, and it's not far off being that bad now when you look at the league table, and it could look again a lot different come the end of next week. Then,
if we lose to Sunderland,
they might have a decision to make. But even then, I think part of that round table piece was almost to say, he's our boy,
Oh yeah,
and we're going to stick by him. So I don't think they flip flop that quickly on it. Is my personal opinion. And the collective will have to take responsibility. You kind of your Richard Hughes, your Edwards and stuff. Beth mentioned there about signings coming in. I said after the Newcastle game, when we talk about the transfer window, and could they have done something just to get another defender in, another right back? Now, Szoboszlai does really well for the majority of the game. He has a bit of a funny part in the first half, gets an unbelievable goal. And listen, this can happen to anyone, but he is a player playing out of position. And you see that for the first goal, where he's just slightly deeper than the line. Now, that could have happened to any normal right back, I get that. But when you are playing in unfamiliar territory, it's more likely to happen to a midfielder who's been asked to do stuff than it is if it's a natural defender who understands the line. He's working with Virgil and Canati every single day. He knows when to push, when to sit.
And my point here, Ian, would be when the game becomes that, well, we need to defend for our lives for a period, which, by the way, you're going to have to do. Take the manager's idea that it'd be nice to be 2 goals clear. Of course it will, don't get me wrong. But when you're playing in really big matches against really good sides, being a goal clear with 12 to go is something that just happens in those games.
It's good.
So it's a good thing, yeah. So you end up in a situation where that's when it's gone from, I play right back, but I look to be progressive, and I look to move into midfield, and I look to get, Szoboszlai doesn't do enough for me, but I look to get round me man and do all of that. When it actually becomes, no, we're just defending for our lives now, that's when that stuff gets exposed, that you're not a defender.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point I raised last week was the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge, where the fucking back four's a mess. And they haven't got the backup on the bench, and it's completely changed. And I think there's 2 midfielders playing in the back 4 at the end of that game. And they're doing good stuff for the majority of the time. But when you turn them round and they're doing some of the stuff you've mentioned there, that's when it's totally unfamiliar. And all of this is happening at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So it's so quick and so fast. You can forgive them for not pushing out or just getting caught a little bit because they're not used to it. So this is where I think they could have helped the manager out a little bit more. But the fact that they're not doing stuff in January, and I know Liverpool have done that before.
Well, they tried to. Let's be clear on that. They tried to buy Gert Schroeder, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we know.
So
we know they recognised there were short-term fixes there. That's a short-term fix.
That for me is the most annoying thing. It's like if they'd have said like fully, we don't think that we need anyone, then you can say, right, okay, well, you might disagree, but fine, at least if that is what you genuinely feel. But like you say, they obviously did feel like they would have benefited from having someone. So in that case, why was that happening on the last
January's
day?
a long month. We all fucking know it. And it was like right at the end where that seemed to get a bit of... Maybe stuff was going on in the background, we don't know, but you feel like if they'd really backed the manager there, if they really wanted to do him a turn, they could have done something in the transfer market. Whether it would have made a load of difference, who knows, but that felt like an opportunity just to push on. And as I say, I think Liverpool have done this a couple of times in recent memory where there's been opportunities in January just to strengthen, just to go balls out a little bit, and they've just left the fella in charge a little bit high and dry. And that's not to excuse anything that's happened this season under the manager, because I think he's got a lot wrong, but I just think that was a moment where they could have gone, this might make things a little bit easier, and guess what? It might give us a bit more of a chance of getting into that top 4, that top 5, because at the minute, they are on the bare bones. You talked, Neil, about City's strength and depth and their bench. You're looking at Liverpool's, and I had an issue with the Curtis Jones sub, and I thought it could have been done a little bit quicker. But when you get beyond Jones, seriously, what are you really doing? You could maybe go Robertson for Kerkers, because Kerkers was knackered, and I thought Kerkers, by the way, was brilliant for the majority of the game. And some of the disrespect he had off certain kind of quarters was out of order, in my opinion, for a 21-year-old, as he was then, coming into the club. Needed a little bit of time to settle. He is now settling. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but my God, he looks to me like he's on the right trajectory now to being a really, really good player. Other than that, there wasn't a load you could do. People might say Chiesa, but I think Chiesa's just, he's not quite at the level you ideally want. He could, and he has made some contributions when he's come on, but there's not a load on there, and that's a massive problem.
It's another bit of the cognitive dissonance, though, Rob, which is that you end up in the summer, and again, the same thing applies. If Liverpool get in the Champions League, do I think Liverpool will have a good summer? Yeah. Do I think Liverpool will buy good players? Yeah, I do. Do I think that Liverpool will start next season stronger? Yeah. So therefore, if Arne Slot's manager, you're quite happy with that offer? Yeah, I am. This is the cognitive dissonance of this conversation, is that I don't think they bought a bad player. I don't think they bought a bad player.
Nope. All good buys, all of them.
And yet we're, critical of the squad, in the same way that I think, I'll say again, if the manager's the manager at the start of next season, well, then let's go and try and win the lot. We'll end up being my position around all of that. But it's the moment that we find ourselves in, when you are looking at a squad and going, and you're looking at a bench and going, yeah, you could maybe do the left back for a left back. Okay, what's your next move? And then it becomes lads that you bring on 90 to see out 7 minutes, if we're all honest about it, and there's nothing else apart from Jones.
There is a defence of Arne Slot and this season a case that can be. Jonathan Northcroft in the Sunday Times did a really, really good piece. People focused on the fact that he referred to Klopp and the pressure of following Klopp. was the core of some of the criticism of him, which people I think took as that's not the gist of Jonathan's piece really. He looked at the prevailing tailwinds around him. They made a couple of errors at the death of the window, not getting a pacey winger in to give us some of what Diaz had given us, not getting Gay over the line were mistakes. But on
Dragging Isak out.
But on September the 1st, most parties around the club, the fans were more than content at the summer's work and the way the squad looked. Certainly relative to how the summer had ended. It was in many respects, it has to be said, it was beyond wildest dreams to be buying players of the quality of Wirtz, Ekitike and Isak. Certain people. What went against the manager, which I'm not sure could have been forecast, is well, maybe it could have actually, but Mohamed Salah, it might be too melodramatic to say his form fell off a cliff, because I think there were signs that he was struggling a bit, I think, from February onwards. He's had a difficult season, although I thought he played quite well for half an hour or so yesterday. To put it mildly, he's had a difficult season. We have not had the full fat iteration of a Mohamed Salah that we enjoyed for the first 2/3 of last season and for the rest of his Liverpool career. We haven't enjoyed that. That is quite a big thing not to have, because he was our best player at the end of last season. This season, and if you're drawing a list of best Liverpool players, you're going a few down before you get into Mohamed Salah. I mean, it's a bit of a rogues gallery, best Liverpool player.
Szoboszlai.
Well, yeah, Szoboszlai, Ekitike. But seriously, there's a lot of players ahead of Mohamed Salah in that list this season in particular. And the great man can come back and prove everybody wrong and be brilliant again. But what hasn't had, his form has fallen off a cliff. I don't think we've had the best of Cody Gakpo this season. I think maybe Cody Gakpo has maybe missed what Luis Diaz did in other areas of pitch, pulling people around, creating space for him, because we're not seeing a lot of that Cody dropping his shoulder, one man to beat and bending it in kind of thing. That's just not happening, and that is Cody's party trick, and he's not doing that for whatever reason this season. So I think those two things have been big fall-offs. And basically, so what I'm saying in long-winded ways, Liverpool actually went into this season, unbeknownst to them and the wider fan base, without wingers. Or without wingers that could do the job that our wingers could do last season. And through the Klopp era, we've always been a team that's about wingers. We've been wingless wonders, quite frankly, this season. And I think that's been a massive blow. So Arne Slot go, yep, I wanted Diaz replaced. Yep, he might have even said behind the scenes, I don't know what we'll get out of Mohamed Salah, but I'm all for renewing the contract. He might have said a lot of different things. He might not have wanted to sell Luis Diaz. So there's mitigation for Arne Slot. And go back to everybody's points. Arne Slot deserves everybody's endless respect and should be on a banner forever as a Liverpool great manager. But we are in a pickle, a crisis.
And there's more than that, though. I think that, for instance, the drop-off of McAllister, but then there's managerial aspects of that where he's picked him when maybe he doesn't need to pick him. I think he's had really hard lines with right-back, in that he loses Bradley at the start of this, the long pre-season, because it is a long pre-season. All of August remains pre-season. You're still playing, but it's still pre-season. There's more time to condition, especially if you're a European club. It's your key time. He loses both right-backs effectively by 60 minutes of the first league game. He's lost both right-backs. And I don't think that's ever fixed itself all the way through the campaign. I think they're still recovering from that. And there's bits and pieces in that as well.
In the season where he's had two right backs fit at the same time.
Yes, around January they were both fit for a bit.
But that was when he was using Frimpong further forward, so they weren't just both right backs at that point. But yeah, at least I think they were both on the pitch.
Both of them were on the pitch.
They're both on the pitch against Arsenal, but one's playing further forward. Yeah. But I think that is. I don't think that's ever sort of settled itself, and there is tons and tons of that to sort of get into. Listen, we can touch a little bit on the match if you don't mind.
Go for a nil.
I just want to do briefly. I just want to do the goal.
Yeah.
It's one of the most breathtaking things Ian I've ever seen in Anfield. Genuinely, there was a moment of like a split second of silence, almost when it went in. It was like it was being scored in their ground. That split second of silence, like, has this just happened? You so rarely get it because of the trajectory that the ball takes. It is one of the best free kicks I've ever had the privilege of seeing in person. And I think it's just worth saying that out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a goal that just completely takes your breath away. I mean, I was watching the post-match pint, and you were on it with Phil and with Neil Dockman as well. And I think Phil said that he almost didn't celebrate because of the goal, and Neil Dockman said, well, he celebrated like mad. And there was a sense of that around me. There was people in disbelief who just didn't really react to it. and there was people going berserk because it was just a goal from the gods. So there was almost two things at play, but it's a hell of a strike. And I think when you see a goalkeeper, and I know people will debate Donnarumma, and I know people on the Anfield Wrap have. I know Andy's got strong views on him, as he has with most goalkeepers. And I get there's a fragility there around what he does with his feet, but as a shot stopper,
he loves it.
He's top draw a lot of the time. Doesn't even fucking move. Doesn't even move. Not even worth going for that, because it's fucking not even worth it. Not wasting my fucking time going for that, because it's in the back of the net.
I've not seen it back. What happens? Because I just saw a blur and it went in.
I mean, he lines his wall up, and he gets two big lads in his wall. City's probably two biggest lads.
It's fucking miles. I'm saying you don't shoot there.
Yeah,
miles
close to 35 yards. And maybe if he put another couple in, I think they debated this. I watched a little bit of the Sky coverage when I got in last night, and they were debating if he put another couple in, it might have hit someone else in the wall, which is entirely possible. But it's just to have that kind of almost braveness. Like Rooney was on Match of the Day 2 last night, and he even said, like, he's took free kicks for United. He said, no chance would he been as brave to try and cut across it like that in a live game. Not a fucking chance would he even dare. And Rooney was all right. Let's be fucking clear.
And he backed himself.
Yeah, he backed himself, and he could hit a ball from 30 yards, and he would not take that kind of shot on. So it's absolutely stunning from Szoboszlai, and it's a goal that deserves to win any football match, and that's a massive regret.
It's not a fluke either, because the Arsenal free kick is, by the way, now the second best free kick you've ever seen, because that was an incredible free kick. I mean, the one he puts under the wall the other day was a beautiful free kick. So quietly, he's becoming a free kick taker. If we're looking for pluses this season. Do you remember Suarez in his first year or two at Liverpool did lots of lovely things, but he didn't bang free kicks in every week. Then he in that final season, scored 1, scored 2, I think he probably scores 5 in that.
I think he scores 5. I think he's the only one who's scored more than Szoboszlai in the Premier League era for Liverpool, I think, in a season.
So what it means is, this is one of the small pluses we've got, is next time we get a free kick, we're all going, get Dom on it. Get Dom on it, and we know there's a chance. Well, Dom is confident.
The other thing that we know, which is no bad thing, is it'll be in the minds of opposition, which is to give free kicks away around the box, which is no bad place to be. A football team, and that used to happen with Ward-Prowse. That side that Ward-Prowse was playing for, you'd have the idea of just don't give a cheap one away, but that can lead to people not committing to tackles and things in those areas.
I thought it was a cheap one, by the way.
Oh, it wasn't a foul. Never in a million years.
But it's
by the way, but it was a red card.
The gay one on Salah.
Yeah, I found the psychology of the refereeing to become really rather difficult with the language yesterday. It was a good example of the classic examples
what does Salah have to do to get a free? But not just that, he gets the foul, doesn't get the red card, but there's myriad other occasions where he's fouled in that game and he gets nothing. Number of times. I mean, it's a story of Mohamed Salah's life in England
for a long time.
But it is ridiculous, and he does need to be focused on again and again. Mohamed Salah is treated terribly by referees generally. And okay, he grudgingly got a free kick on the edge of the box yesterday. He doesn't get what he should have got, which is the man getting sent off. Well, I think he deserved that.
I also think it's a professional foul. He knows exactly where he is. Gay, in a way, it's almost like, well, credit to him, because he's picked his moments and he's picked his targets in the referee, and he's thought, I'll get away with this here, and he has. And if it's a yard deep, it's a penalty. The whole.
Well, it does carry on into the box, doesn't it? I mean, there's a question on that, isn't it? I didn't see it again.
Not really, no. I think you couldn't have given it as a penalty.
No.
Unfortunately, no. You couldn't have given it as a penalty.
So why did is there an explanation as to why the VAR didn't give the?
He has is coming across. So I think the debate was, would he have got there in time to maybe get to Salah? And they've obviously landed on, they felt he could get across and cover the shot.
It's one which, when you see it back, if the referee sends him off, it doesn't get overruled.
Yeah, no chance.
If you see what I mean. So it's going with the on-field decision and not feeling as though it's the thresholds, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whatever the thresholds are.
Yeah, those thresholds. God damn them.
Words and their fucking definitions, Rob. Unfortunately, this stuff takes and carries. All right. Got to look ahead to Sunderland. That's what we'll do now. But before then, I want to mention a couple of things. One, thank you if you came to the Island Tour. It was very good of you. And it went very well indeed. So thanks for everyone who came out on the 4 nights. And we're going to be in Australia. So the AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live for Australia, March, international break for that. And New Zealand as well. So there is a Wednesday night show in Auckland. I think it is Sunday in Sydney. It's then Tuesday, 2 shows in Melbourne, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I'm doing very well so far. Auckland Wednesday, and then Friday is when we hit the teeth of it. And I think the order is Brisbane, Adelaide, and then Perth on the Sunday. That is the run for us, pushing all the way through, so do check that out. Album of the week is Rochelle Jordan with Through the Wall, which is worth checking out. Came out in September of last year. Last week we did Ari Lennox, and I want to move on now and do Rochelle Jordan. Similar sort of genre. I'd say that Rochelle's a little bit more experimental. Do check it out if you get the opportunity to do so. It's an album I liked a great deal at the back end of last year and listened to my heart's content. Sunderland.
Aye. What about them?
Well, not them particularly. More, no. I don't think, like normally I go, and what team would you pick?
Anyone, I've got a feeling we might go and win that. I don't know why. Just for giggles.
But I mean, that's fine. Liverpool have got a 40% chance of winning any game, Rob, and it's worth bearing that in mind. So, you know, it could be one of the 4 in 10 that Liverpool win. We could be on that timeline. But I just sort of want to know what team you're picking. And are you doing anything that I'm not going to say? Like, if I say a team, will you disagree with any of it?
It's about the week. I thought about this team in terms of the week ahead. I felt he would probably try to go unchanged, given that he is a manager who loves to be unchanged if he anyway possibly can, and was yesterday. Given he had 8 days, hadn't he, between Newcastle and City. So I think he would have looked after Newcastle going, playing well, that team was playing well, that setup was good. Let's try and put it on the pitch in two successive games, even if they're quite close together. Then have a move for Brighton. It is the cup, it is important, but maybe make 4 changes for that. And after that, they've got a full week. So I think he would have liked to have probably gone same again. I think if we'd won 1-0, he might have gone same again. I don't know, would he have looked for token freshens up Rob Owen for Kirkers? He doesn't have much to do as we had to change. He could have thrown Curtis in for McAllister, but I think that might have been it, and that might still be all it is, if it's anything.
Szoboszlai suspended.
Oh, that guy, Vince Jones for Szoboszlai. There you go. That's the answer to that question. Yeah. Okay, fine. That's all he gets to do. I mean, in a way, it's a player that does need a break every now and again, never gets one. It's sort of like a forced break, and what the hell?
Is that all you're doing?
I'm just saying that's all.
What would I do? I'm throwing Rio and going Mo for a gap.
I'm just saying it. I mean,
that's what I'm asking you is what you.
I think like, because you want Florian Wirtz starting, but I just think if he's part of like a midfield 3 that's got Gravenberch and McAllister in, I'm just massively concerned going there. If that's your makeup of your midfield. Now, depending whether you want to look at it, is it 4 forwards, is it 3 midfield? But that, like, Wirtz for me has to start. So, are you starting McAllister next to Gravenberch again? I'm not sure. I mean, you can put Jones in there, but then what are you doing at right back? It is then leading you down a path of throwing lads in who just have barely kicked the ball for Liverpool this season. I mean, there's only really Endo, isn't there?
I was going to say that it is one of those games.
He's not going to use Calvin Ramsey,
no,
so...
It's one of those games where I think you could make an argument for Endo purely just because he likes to tackle and is a bit more physical.
It's attritional, and it might just suit him in that way. Yeah. I mean, I'm not Endo's biggest fan in terms of his football ability and stuff. I don't think he's good enough for Liverpool, but I think there's lots of qualities about him that I do like in terms of he's a team player, he battles, he'll get stuck in. So I think as a one-off game, they might just need to look at him, because I just think they can't go into that stadium where they haven't been beat there all season. It is going to be a fucking tough game, I would expect.
What's their left wing look like?
Don't know yet. They did have a drinker. They made the changes, so it'll be that busy lad, Laffy. Probably will play off the left. He's a good player, but he's not a pure left winger. But they might go with a pure left winger. Got a really deep squad with quite interchangeable footballers. So I think they might go Laffy, but there's a couple of other options they've been using recently, and obviously they've sort of come back off AFCON as well, and they brought a couple back. Adringa's gone to Monaco as part of the post AFCON period. I think they felt like they didn't need the lad, so he went to Monaco on a loan with an obligation. I don't know who they played left wing against Arsenal at the weekend, just gone. I couldn't tell you.
I think whatever you do here, what we're saying is this is not ideal at all. There's no ideal solution here, and this is a team that they have held City, although City should have won there. They have held Arsenal, so it's a tough place to go. They're not a perfect team, Sunderland by any stretch of the imagination, and they don't particularly travel well. But at home with that crowd night game, Liverpool could be in for one. They can't be starting matches slow. They can't be starting this game slow, because they will find themselves behind. Sunderland will massively be up for this. They'll smell blood. If they don't smell blood, then you wouldn't see why they wouldn't, given what's gone on this season. So it's a game that they're going to have to be prepared to to put bodies on the line a little bit and do some of the stuff that we mentioned at the start of the show, which they haven't been doing. So I think it'll be a really, really tough test.
He has shown an inclination when games become thick and fast, and looking at the fragility, the fitness of some of our forwards, Verts and Ekitike in particular, of leaving one out. So he could leave Ekitike out and put Gakpo up top, and with a view to bringing Ekitike on to relieve somebody else. Who did he do that against recently? Was it Marseille, something like, or Bournemouth? Bournemouth, yeah, that worked well.
I mean, they got Brighton at the weekend in the Cup.
I almost think he's got to put blinkers on over Brighton and go, just get Sunderland. Champions League is everything.
It has to be.
So go out there and do whatever. It's a cup final. Go out there and try and win it. You cannot think about Brighton, I don't think.
No,
you get the other side.
That's what I'm saying. They've got to put everything into the game on Wednesday. So I can't believe in Ekitike out on Wednesday night. He's got to play.
I wouldn't.
Unless there's any kind of fitness issue, he's got to play in that game on Wednesday. That is, if Liverpool don't win that game, then I mean, I'm finding it hard now to convince myself that they're going to get top 5 as it is. If they come away from that game with nothing, you find it really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game that I've been quite concerned about for a while. I thought that Liverpool would win against City and struggle against Sunderland. That was my view coming into this week. Now maybe it will work in reverse. Maybe they'll go and absolutely hammer Sunderland. And it's another game where, again, like night game, you can just see it, can't you? Them scoring from a long throw and everyone going crazy, and it's just got banana skin written all over it. So in the spirit of making changes, I would make a change. I probably would. Curtis Jones has got to come in somewhere. For me, I'd quite like to bring him in instead of McAllister, but then I think you probably need him at right back. So unless you play Endo right back and bring Jones into midfield. Ngamoa, I'm sort of of the view that, like, you know, he's not ready to be a starter for this team. Absolutely not. But there's no point throwing him on to try and save things when you need a goal. So give him a start. I mean,
I want to see him play in space, because every time, the trouble is, we bring him on when we need a goal.
Yeah.
We bring him on against a low block. It's almost like that. When you freeze the frame on him at any one time in his recent cameos, it's like that shot of Maradona where he's got, I'm not comparing it to Maradona, but he's got like 5 players in front of him.
He's getting a low block on Wednesday.
From minute one. I mean, if the crowd are up,
he's more likely to start against Brighton, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
but he's getting, I'm just saying in general, it'll start as a low block.
But
they'll do exactly what they tried to do in the derby.
But he would be with fresher teammates who, like, he comes on when Verts.
This is fair. I'm not against it.
Verts and Ekitike or he plays Gak are dead on their feet, and so he's the only one with energy, and the entire focus of the defence goes on him. I think there's a fighting chance that we might get some room on the counter. A crowd can get a team out of a low block on their own ground. I know. Let's see. I'd like to have a chance of seeing that Rio Ngamoa we saw pre-season, maybe a little bit against Newcastle, where he's in full flight with a man to beat, and he can get past him. And we got to get. Let's put it this way: the spirit of this show was, the unofficial agenda was is change for change's sake a good thing. Rio Ngamoa comes under the banner of a change for change's sake, and I'd be up for having a go with it.
Okay, thank you very much to Rob, to Ian and to Beth, Paddy and Jimmy behind the camera / audio equipment all the way through for this one. Hope you have managed to enjoy it. It didn't really have an agenda, to be honest with you. It should have had one, but IT incompetence from me. But I think it was really good. See you later.